The first time I heard Serena mention Jonah, it was wrapped in the kind of casual brightness she reserved for new yoga instructors or baristas who drew perfect foam hearts. "He sits 2 pods away," she said, kicking off her heels in the hallway. "He's training the interns on cloud migration. Poor guy's 27 and already graying." I laughed because Serena's stories arrived with details that felt like gifts. Mismatched socks, caffeine mishaps, office gossip harmless as cotton candy. Jonah became a recurring character. The kid who brought her extra espresso when deadlines collided, who quoted Star Wars during Zoom calls, who once stapled his own sleeve by accident. I pictured him cartoon small and harmless, a background extra in our marriage's sitcom. Then the changes started, subtle like the first cool day that hints summer is tired. Serena began staying late for testing sprints. Came home smelling of citrus and sea salt, a scent too summery for October. She started a new playlist, indie songs with lyrics about parallel universes, and wore lipstick the color of burnt copper, though her office was still half empty. When I asked, she laughed, tugged my beard, called me adorable in my paranoia. One Thursday, she forgot her phone on the kitchen island. It buzzed while I brewed coffee. A WhatsApp preview floated. "Jonah Rocket. Can't stop replaying yesterday." Yesterday had been a company picnic I hadn't attended because my own project was due. I stared at the notification until it dissolved, then went back to stirring sugar that suddenly tasted like metal. That night I mentioned the text. Serena rolled her eyes good-natured. "He probably means my presentation. You know how dramatic interns are." She kissed my cheek, warm and firm, and the firmness felt rehearsed. The next week she took a weekend girls' trip to a lake house I'd never heard of. She sent photos, sunset, margaritas, Serena laughing in a hammock between 2 shadows I assumed were friends. When she got home, she hugged me longer than usual, as if anchoring herself to a dock she planned to leave. That we slid into a pattern. I asked, she deflected. I apologized for asking, she hugged me innocent. The hugs became her favorite currency, long, fierce, smelling of unfamiliar shampoo. I started counting them the way a child counts coins for candy that never quite sweetens. Then came the night that cracked everything open. We were cooking dinner, stir-fry, ginger and garlic clouding the air, when her phone buzzed on the counter. She was chopping scallions, hands oily, so she asked me to check. I tapped the notification, expecting another meme from her sister. Instead, a voice message. I hit play without thinking, speaker on. Jonah's voice filled the kitchen, soft, certain, intimate. "I keep replaying that hotel, the way you looked at me when the elevator doors closed. I didn't know desire could feel that quiet and still cut so deep. Come back to me, Serena. We can figure out the rest later." The message ended. The only sound was the sizzle of oil, the tick of our kitchen clock, the sudden hollow of my own pulse. Serena's knife hovered above the scallions, midair, as if time had paused to watch her lie collapse. That I stared at her. Color drained from her face, then rushed back in a guilty flood. The phone slipped from my hand, clattered to the tile. Neither of us moved to pick it up. Finally, she whispered, "It's not what you think." But we both knew intimacy had a vocabulary, and Jonah had just recited it aloud. I turned off the burner. The silence felt louder than the message. I walked to the living room, sat on the couch we'd picked out together, the one she'd napped on during migraines, during movies, during what I thought were ordinary naps. She followed, hands trembling, leaving oily fingerprints on her jeans. "I was going to end it," she said. "I didn't know how to tell you. I thought I could handle it, make it disappear before it touched us." I laughed, one sharp note, humorless. "Touched us? It's inside us now, Serena. It's in the copper lipstick, the sea salt scent, the hugs you used as receipts." She cried, ugly, shoulders shaking, nose running. She spoke of confusion, of feeling unseen, of middle-of-the-night panic, that life was slipping through her fingers like sand. She swore she loved me, swore it was already over, swore the message was a last gasp she hadn't answered. But answers weren't the point. The point was the quiet she'd chosen over truth, the parallel universe she'd built while I stood in our kitchen stirring futures that now tasted of smoke. That I packed a bag that night. When I zipped it, the sound felt final, like a book slamming shut. She stood in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself, as if hugging the ghost of all those innocence performances. That I paused at the threshold. "Next time," I said, "don't use hugs to cover tracks. Use them to carry the weight of what you're afraid to say." I left the scallions wilting on the cutting board, the burner cooling, the echo of a voice that had, in 30 seconds, rewritten half a decade. Outside, the city carried on, cars honking, neon flickering, people hurrying home to partners who might or might not be truthful. I walked into the night lighter than expected, as if the truth, brutal as it was, had burned off the fog I hadn't known I was breathing, that I didn't know where I would sleep. Only that it would be a place where incoming messages could not rewrite my worth, where silence would never again be sold as affection, where the only voice I answered to was the one that finally knew the difference between a hug and a handrail, and refused to be mistaken for the latter ever again.